The original F-15 entered service at kind of an odd time in military aviation. A lot of emerging technologies were just on the cusp of being ready, but weren't quite mature enough to get integrated into the F-15A during the 1970s when it was going through its final development phases. Well, by the mid-1980s, a lot of this new gear was ready to go, and it was time for the F-15 to get some upgrades. The Multi-Stage Improvement Program, MSIP, focused on adding new upgrades into the production line, in addition to upgrading older F-15A airframes of various models. The MSIP II was the program to upgrade the F-15C, and featured a pretty long list of individual component upgrades. One of the most important new systems was the Programmable Armament Control Set, called PAX, which allowed the jet's combat computer to gain compatibility with new weapons through software updates rather than having to install new hardware into the computer system itself. It also featured a new radar set with significantly upgraded performance, allowing the upgraded F-15Cs to fire up to 4 of the new AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles at different targets at the same time through data link and telemetry updates. A significant amount of the F-15's internal systems were also upgraded through MSIP-II, including the radar warning receiver, the ECM system, new GPS navigation features, and significantly expanded fuel capacity. The new upgraded F-15C started to enter service in 1985, but introduction was a little slower than expected, and it needed to be rushed a bit in order to get them into service for deployment during the first Gulf War in 1991. Throughout the late 1990s and 2000s, the F-15Cs had started to demonstrate a pretty significant amount of airframe fatigue, which even led to a few crashes. But as of 2024, many of them are still flying with the United States. However, their retirement seems imminent as Air Force planners keep publishing new phase-out dates just about every year or so. What we get in War Thunder is the F-15C MSIP II, a jet fighter in rank 8 of the American tech tree at battle rating 13.0 for air battles. This jet, unsurprisingly, has a modern sensor package with a full ballistics computer and the AN/ALR-56C radar warning receiver. This direction-based unit tracks E through J band signals, tracking up to 12 targets at a time. The radar is the AN/APG-63V1. This is an I-band set with very good range, multiple look-down modes, helmet-mounted slaving, and all of the other top-tier radar features. Notably, its data link can monitor up to 8 targets at once. For loadouts, the F-15C is still an air superiority fighter at heart, so you get a good set of high-end missiles, and it also does get a selection of bombs and fuel tanks, but no rocket pods. For close-in dogfighting, you get both the AIM-9L and AIM-9M. By now, you're probably familiar with these from going up the tech tree, and both are high-performance all-aspect infrared missiles. The 9 mic is generally the better weapon, having infrared countermeasures and being smokeless. Your semi-active radar missile is the AIM-7M. This is a fairly good performance version of the Sparrow that you've seen before, and it's going to end up getting a significant portion of your kills while you're grinding upgrades for the F-15C. Now, the top-shelf missile you get is the AIM-120A AMRAAM. This is an active radar missile with inertial observer guidance and data link functionality, 35 Gs of pull, along with a fairly good engagement range. For air-to-ground weapons, you can take the GBU-8. This is an enormous TV-guided bomb, which gives this plane a credible capability for close air support. The flight performance of the F-15C is simply outstanding. Being a 4th-generation fighter, this jet has excellent acceleration and top-end speed, reasonably good energy retention, and pretty strong overall agility. Not the best in the game, but good. Now, as I've mentioned in my reviews of other F-15s, and frankly most of the heavier 4th-generation jets, your flight performance is going to vary dramatically based not just on your weapon loadout, like if you take bombs or something, but also based on your fuel load. Managing fuel burn is kind of its own little sub-meta in a top-tier fighter like this, and the idea is to have enough fuel to hit combat with a good medium weight so that you can still fly in a little lighter, but still have enough gas to get home and make it back to the runway after the fight. The F-15C gets the option to take conformal fuel tanks as part of its loadouts, in addition to the regular drop tanks. So if you really want to, you can gas this thing up pretty far, but it's something that you're going to want to mess around with a little bit on your own. I can't give specific advice because everybody's playstyle is a little different, but generally speaking, I try to be at around 20 minutes of fuel when I get into a fight. Sometimes this is just managing my pre-fill, sometimes it's taking a low pre-fill combined with drop tanks, and sometimes it's just throttle management. But like I said, experiment a bit. That brings us back to its agility and the throttle management again. Now, I've said many times, and I'll keep on saying it, but in the F-15C, just like a lot of the other top-tier jets, you need to pay really careful attention to managing your airspeed if you want to maximize agility for a dogfight. Your turning circle is going to be significantly worse up at like Mach 1.2 than it is down at 700 kilometers an hour. So if you find yourself in situations a lot where it feels like you just can't turn, slow down. You've got the engine performance to regain lost speed pretty easily. When possible, try and stay in between about 600 and 900 kilometers an hour with this jet for the best results in the middle of a turning fight. Taking the F-15C out in air battles introduces a lot of new tactics. As of making this review, the meta around active radar missiles is still evolving, and players are still adjusting to the new weapons. Remember, these are fire-and-forget radar-guided missiles with very good performance. But let me just get some basic stuff about this jet out of the way first. Like the F-15A before it in the tech tree, this plane has the flight performance to go anywhere you want to put it. If you want to try some high-altitude missile jousting, you can get there. If you want to fly low hugging the deck to try and avoid incoming missile fire, it's no problem. The F-15C can fit into almost any playstyle, and the plane isn't going to hold you back. Now, with that said, in preparing this review, I tried to fly the F-15C out using a variety of different tactics and stuff, as I do with basically everything I review on the channel. And I personally found that wide flanking attacks using the AIM-120 ended up working especially well. If you can position this jet into attacking the side of the enemy team, it's far easier to try and pick people off one at a time or set up individual engagements, rather than just throwing yourself into the spam ram salvo in the middle of the map. Now, if you do prefer to fight in the middle and get your Twitch reaction dopamine going, or like climb up for high altitude combat, Track While Scan is going to be your best friend, and it can help you data link multiple shots in at the same time. Now, just remember something else that's pretty important here. Even as good as the new missiles are, you will still miss the majority of medium and long-range yeet shots just because it takes so long for the missile to get to the target, and in War Thunder's game modes, a lot can happen in that time. The plane you fired at can get shot down by someone else, it can evade and use countermeasures, fly behind terrain, some other plane can get in the way, so on and so on. Now, it's fun when those BVR shots connect, and you can get kills that way for sure, but the active radar homing missile meta is still developing, so just try to keep realistic expectations. Something I like to do is fire the 120s off in pairs. One to force the opponent into a defensive maneuver, then you wait a couple of seconds, and you fire a second one, so that after they've changed direction, hopefully the second shot will catch them when they turn back in on you. Visually, the F-15 is still a great looking jet. This model can take conformal fuel tanks, which are going to change the shape a bit and give it kind of a chubby look, but I still think it's awesome. There are 3 custom skins available in the game, and all of them were shown in this review. The F-15C is one of the easiest top-tier jets to land, and its low-speed performance is just great. You can drop gear and flaps at about 400 kilometers an hour, but no drag chute, so landing runs can be a little long if you end up going in hot. Now, the cockpit on this jet is really something special. The displays are huge and in good positions, plus the helmet-mounted sight now projects the HUD for you when your view is off-center. This took me by surprise, but once I got used to it, it was really useful. Overall, this is a great jet to fly in VR. To close out on the F-15C MSIP II. This jet can take up to 8 active radar missiles. It's got outstanding flight performance. It can load up with an enormous amount of fuel. And it's got a really good helmet-mounted sight. However, it's still a bit heavy, and it's a large target in a gunfight. The final verdict on the F-15C is that this jet is a great addition to the American lineup and absolutely worth the grind. The huge weapon load and excellent flight performance will make this a competitive fighter at or near the top of the meta for quite a long time. As always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, check out this other one.